Why does Leonardo DiCaprio only date women under 25? Well, he's trying to beat the expiration date on his Oscar. Let's talk about Leo and his lust for younger women coming up.
We are all a little depraved and debaucherous. Here is the king of podcasts.
Welcome to the program, King of Podcasts here with you. Thank you for listening to Depraved and Debaucherous, as you always do every week, for all your wonderful talk about society, culture, dating, relationships, and all the crazy, depraved and debaucherous things we normally do. And Depraved and Debaucherous this week salutes Leonardo DiCaprio. For whatever reason, he was made a subject in a UK or US Sun article talking about the real reasons men like Leonardo DiCaprio date younger women and a not safe for work misconception. So for whatever thing that's going on right now, I'm surprised I haven't talked about Leo much sooner. But one of the things I must say is that I respect and I enjoy all the movies that Leonardo DiCaprio has gotten in for the most part, and all the movies after Titanic. Let's just make it like that. Don't get me wrong, right? But he's gotten so much more that he's done for himself. So like, if I had to go name movies that I enjoyed him in, okay, Wolf of Wall Street, Killers of the Flower Moon, Inception, The Revenant, Catch Me If You Can, The Great Gatsby, The Departed. What else do I have here? Django Unchained. I could go with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Blood Diamond, The Aviator, Gangs of New York, Body of Lies, J. Edgar. That's a good start of where I was with him anyway. If I wanted to go into any of those movies at all, that's a good start of the movies that I like, that I've watched quite a bit of Leonardo DiCaprio in. Leo DiCaprio, right? So the thing is, there's a big deal over the fact that we know there's the DiCaprio effect, that he normally likes to date under 25 years old. And why? I mean, you can go ahead and continue to talk about, all the thoughts that have been made by Esther Villar and the Manipulated Man, and all the different things that's been talked about when it comes to younger women. So it's a couple of things that Esther Villar wrote in The Manipulated Man. I like to go ahead and quote this book. It's a wonderful book. If you have not picked it up or listened to it, it's hard to find because there wasn't anybody that really did an audiobook version of it, at least as far as I know. But take a look at the book from 1971. Extremely important even today, because when it comes to young women, this is where I take from Esther Villar. She made this point very well. So on the baby look, women have to preserve this baby look for as long as possible so as to make the world continue to believe in the darling, sweet little girl she once was, and she relies on the protective instinct of man to make him take care of her. Another way you could call it is gynocentrism, which is another aspect to it. The idea is that males marry younger females not to control their sexuality, but because women seek an older male to place in the responsible paternal role to enhance the child theme they intend to play out in the relationship. And women, by the way, they fall into this because of the fact that women collectively spend billions of dollars annually to neotenize their appearance, enhancing their efforts to assume the infantilized role. And we also make mention of the fact that women are allowed to kind of play in this role, because there's an occasional man that will act like a full-time child to his female partner, and we can say that all men experience occasional moments of regression to boyishness in their relationships. However, society frowns upon men indulging too much of the child within, and such indulgence is roundly met with sexual rejection by women. The child role is reserved exclusively for women within the relationship context. More from Esther Villar. She makes the point of that for how can any woman hope to maintain it, the baby look beyond the age of 25, because that's when the change really doesn't come into place. It's a safe bet that given the choice, man would trade in his grown-up child wife for a younger model. Given the choice, a man will always choose a younger woman. Very true words. And despite every trick of the cosmetics industry, her actual age will inevitably show in the end. And what on earth is a man to do with a grown-up face when he has been manipulated into considering only helpless, appealing little girls to be creatures of beauty? So the idea is that women manipulate men through their appearance, and the society reinforces the idea that youth and helplessness are the epitome of female attractiveness, which is very true. which is why we are fawning over young women. But also part of it is, for some men, it's because, what they want to go and marry. They want to marry someone who has not been very sexually active and hopefully will be a good mother to the children. Very traditional relationships. We can talk about that too. And I should go ahead and take the disclaimer because Gemini is telling me this. It's crucial to understand that Esther Villar's work is highly contentious and her views are not universally accepted. Many critics argue that her theories oversimplify complex gender dynamics and perpetuate harmful stereotypes about men and women. Okay, you might say that. Now, back to the point about young women. And this can be absolutely a testament to the DiCaprio effect. Let me quote here. As I mentioned, women have preserved this baby look for as long as possible so as to make the world continue to believe in the darling, sweet little girl she once was, and she relies on the protective instinct of man to make him take care of her. As with everything a woman undertakes on her own initiative, this whole maneuver is as incredible as it is stupid. It is amazing, in fact, that it succeeds. It would appear very short-sighted to encourage such an ideal of beauty. For how many women can hope to maintain it beyond the age of 25? What is a man to do when the smooth curves have become flabby tires of flesh, the skin slack and pallid, when the childish tones have grown shrill and the laughter sounds like neighing? What is to become of the shrew when her face no longer atones for her ceaseless inanities, when the cries of ooh and ah begin to drive him out of his mind? This mummified child will never fire a man's erotic fantasy again. One might think her power broken at last. But that's the Leo DiCaprio thing. It's the part where it's the young, I guess you could say, like the young ingenue that will learn and will absorb from the older paternal style Leo DiCaprio type character, like the successful person that has lived the world, that has traveled the world, right? There's a lot of benefits for dating someone like him. There's a lot of women that have taken advantage of dating someone like him because of how successful he's become and how rich he is and how successful he is. And what woman wouldn't want to go in, hopefully, if they were looking at that, trying to go ahead and settle him down, which no one has done yet. Think of that. 49 years old, has not been married. But see, normally when a younger woman starts to lose her way and she gets into her late 20s, which is why it makes it much more difficult for women over 30 to find themselves in good relationships, because the modern women that we have right now, they're definitely taking the time to take advantage of multiple men of their interest to use their youth and beauty to go along. But again, after 30 years old, that goes away. 25, it starts to fade. And it's not a bad thing. But by the end of your 20s, that usually the youth that was comparable to what you look like at 20 years old to where you are 30 years old does change. But normally what women will do, according to Esther Villar, is that she'll still manage to get her own way. First is that she now has children who enable her to continue feigning helplessness. As for the second, there are simply not enough young women to go around. It's a safe bet, given the choice, man will trade in his grown-up child wife for younger model. As the ratio between the sexes is roughly equal, not every man can have a younger woman. And as he has to have a wife of some sort, he prefers to keep the one he already possesses. This is easy to prove, given the choice, a man will always choose a younger woman. But what we're learning right now is that the younger women are in abundance. They're plentiful because of the modern woman aspect. See, let me put it like this. There are a lot more younger women available for successful men. And the parameters are very clear to the modern woman. She wants a man who is tall, who is handsome, who has more than a six-figure income, and has the body that goes along with it. I mean, has to have the looks, has to have the money, has to have the status. So the younger women right now have been manipulated, okay, much like it might have been in 1970, 50 years ago, at the start of the feminist movement, the women's lib movement, where women started to realize that this is a manipulation they could do on themselves. But see, what happened is feminism has manipulated some of these younger modern women to not choose children, to not choose finding someone that they want to be with that will take care of them and support them and be monogamous to them. No, they want to choose to try to go ahead and bag the best possible man they can based on material things. of which also, one thing that will not go away, even though the guy might get older, he might not have the same body, but the status and the money will still be there. But then also the younger woman will go and think she can go ahead and move along with herself. But also, she's also getting the manipulation of thinking, well, I'm just going to use him for what I want. So this is what I want, and I'm going to use what I'm going to get out of him to get what I want. So Leo DiCaprio realizes at 25 years old what Esther Villar is saying right here. Maybe not exactly like that, but there's something on him that shows he's just not going to go and stick around with somebody after 25 years old because children might be brought into the equation. The extent of how long the relationship will go into the equation as well. All those things. So that's got to be considered. Now, we know that Leo DiCaprio has had his share of some of the most beautiful women in the world. Gisele Bundchen, he dated before she got locked into Tom Brady. Refaeli was at 19 years old, Israeli model, Sports Illustrated cover model. Blake Lively, we all know, pre-Ryan Reynolds, Blake Lively as Gossip Girl was with Leo. And Camila Morrone. These relationships all ended once they approached their mid-20s. That's it. So there's always been the talk about, well, defending his right to date whomever he pleased, and others criticizing the power dynamics and potential emotional impact on the young woman involved. So to go into the dating history of Leo DiCaprio, there actually are people that are out there. A couple of years ago on Reddit, somebody actually put together a chart of the women that Leo dated. Gisele Bundchen, he was dating back in 1999 from the ages of 18 to 23. Refaeli, was 20 years old, and he was dating with her up until it was 5 years from 20 to 25. Blake Lively was in 2011. She was 23 years old. Very short time, by the way. He was Erin Heatherton at age 22. At 20 years old, Tony Guerin started dating him. Kelly Rohrbach started dating him, and she was 24 going on 25. Nina Agdal, he was with for quite a while, and that was from what? She was 24 to 25, and then the most recent relationship was Camila Morrone, and that was from 2020 to 2020. So she was 2018 to 2022, and she was 20 years old when they met, 25 years old when she dropped out. Now, let's also make this a point as well, that there could be something to be said about that all these women are very successful in their own right prior to this. And I'm saying, I get it, man. Camila Morrone and all these women, and I also see like a bit of a notice of he has a preference for blondes, some brunettes, but noticing now he goes more for brunettes than he does blondes. Because right now his current relationship is started with, in 2023, its most current right now is Vittoria Ceretti, a 25-year-old model. So if we try to go and look and find out what it is about her that makes her someone that goes against the grain. Well, we know, first of all, that, again, he is about to be 50 years old. He's 49 years old right now. We'll be turning 50. She was an elite model, part of the elite model agency, as it participated in 400 fashion shows, appeared on the cover of Vogue and its international editions 23 times. Her mother and father, she's daughter Giuseppe Ceretti, owner of a flooring company. His wife is a housewife. And she started modeling at 14 years old. She was a finalist in the Elite Model Look competition. And for the most part, she's done modeling and just made a great career to it. That's all there is to it. And she says that when she was speaking to Vogue France, that, before going to modeling, she would have studied either acting or psychology if she had not begun a career as a model. There's not much said about her. There's nothing about her where she is doing any things in particular of her own kind of campaign to, some kind of entrepreneurship or trying to create her own line, her own fashion. Like, she's not doing anything where anything like that is coming in. At least that's not what I'm seeing here at all about her, which is interesting. But among the other women, I don't know if there's anything more about them that really stood out that we need to know about. But let's go and see what they're talking about her. What is it about her that makes him stay with Vittoria Ceretti? So again, she's modeled for campaigns with designers like Alexander McQueen, Versace, Miu Miu, Balenciaga, and Gucci. She was married to Italian DJ Matteo Mileri. The wedding was in 2020, separated from her husband. Now, they first met at the 2023 Cannes Film Festival during the premiere for The Killers of the Flower Moon. And they were first linked romantically when someone saw them on an ice cream date in Los Angeles, according to Page 6. And then September 6th, they were dancing in Ibiza, Spain, according to a source saying that DiCaprio was calling Soretti his girlfriend. Insider telling the Daily Mail, she's a beautiful girl, but Leonardo is, of course, surrounded by many beautiful girls most of the time, but he adores her and she him, spending a lot of time together this summer, traveling around on romantic trips. And that people are just wondering, is DiCaprio starting to go ahead and hang up his normal ways? Listen, George Clooney was brought up like this, and then Amal Clooney comes along, and then, oh, big change. But George Clooney was also the kind of that thing, same thing for himself. Didn't think he would ever get married, but obviously he did. Something happened. DiCaprio has introduced Soretti to his mom. So maybe things are getting more serious. They spent Halloween together back last October. They were exclusive as of November. And DiCaprio and Soretti attended his 49th birthday party together. In December, they enjoyed spending time together in Europe. They were in Los Angeles in the year of 2024. There was talk that maybe there was an engagement coming up because Soretti was wearing a silver ring on her left ring finger. But multiple sources told TMZ that DiCaprio had not proposed. And that she had had the ring at least since September 2022 before they began dating. And it's always something I always read about. Like, you know, they're spending a lot of time together, which is great. And I will say this, when I look at Victoria, I'm not looking at her and saying to myself, listen, she's better than I'll ever have on any day of the week or any day of the year, any day of my life. Let's just say like that, okay? She's gorgeous. I don't know if I'm the kind of person that's going to go and compare who he's been with before to previous women, but there has to be something about her that has definitely got him wrapped in a way that, you know, there's something from her and her heart and who she is that definitely resonates more beyond the beauty. And I think that's got to be what it is about that. And what is it about the other women that he dated before as to why he chose to go ahead and move along? You just got to look at the women that he was with. So again, there was Bridget Hall in 1994. Let me start here. Okay, Bridget Hall in 1994, blonde, beautiful. Naomi Campbell he was with for a while in 1995. But it was also brief. Kristen Zhang he was with from 96 to 97. And he, by the way, he was really young back then. Remember, this is way before. He was with Amber Valletta at one point. Great model. Helena Christensen, supermodel. Ava Herzogova, this guy was just hitting models over and over. Virginia Ledoyen, who was a co-star with him on The Beach. Gisele Bundchen he was with for 5 years, by the way. Leo was 30 and Gisele was 25 years old. And when they decided to go and break up, she wrote in a book saying that, quote, no longer numbing myself with smoking, drinking, and too much work, I was becoming more and more aware of things that I'd chosen not to look at. Was I alone in wanting to do some serious soul searching while he stayed the same? In the end, unfortunately, the answer was yes. So yeah, I mean, Leo wasn't ready to settle down at 25 and she, at 30 years old, and so she wanted something different. So eventually found Tom. Refaeli, 2004 to 2005 to 2010, met at a party for U2. And when asked about the idea of Barr taking the next relationship step to get married, said he wasn't ready for that. Blake Lively was in 2011. Again, Gossip Girl fame for her. And they only did it for a few months after a split. And the distance and timing is why the actors ended things. So that was probably just something, it was just a fling that it was. Nothing bad. Erin Heatherton, that's the name. I don't know why I kept fumbling that around. Only were around for a year. Tony Garn, they're blonde. I kind of like almost a Margot Robbie like to her, right? For a year. Kelly Roebuck also just had a particular look of women that he always went after too. You could just sell that as well. Nina Agdal was blonde, with also then was brunette as well. Camila Morrone was the first brunette we're seeing out of this group here. After so many blondes. Dated for way longer than usual for Leo. And Leo was very in love and serious, and that Camila had talked about getting engaged. Even spoke about their much discussed age gap, telling Vulture, quote, negative comments don't stop because you address them. I feel like I'm being like, you guys suck. This sucks. You guys are really mean. I probably won't address it again because then you open floodgates for people to judge you. I've learned more and more just to protect myself and avoid things that'll hurt my feelings. And that distance played a factor when it came to their breakup. Then he was with Victoria Lamas, another brunette. Well, she's like more blonde, but also could be brunette, I guess. But they were very shortly together. That was it. Then Gigi Hadid was brought in the mix. She was also supposedly around, linked back in September 2022. They went back and forth for a couple of months, and that was it. And now, as we said, Victoria Ceretti. She's class. I mean, she has a look to her. When you look at, when you just see modeling pictures of her right now, it's just class. 100% class. Page 6, in September last year, they said that this couple's ship was more than a passing fling, and they've been spending quite a bit of time together over the past few months, enjoying getting to know one another on a deeper level. Now, let's get to the point of all this. Why did it get this all stirred up right now? Because there's a relationship expert that decided to go ahead and say something about why is he dating a 26-year-old after his effect of always stopping at age 25. So let's go ahead and go right to the source. The lady that sells us the story right now says is Annabelle Knight. She offered insight suggesting men like DiCaprio might seek age gaps, not just to feel younger, but also to share interest and a sense of validation. That's what her thought was of this. But now, more into what she says here. The fact that he's dating someone that's 26 years old, she says we shouldn't get too ahead of ourselves. Quote, there's been a lot of conversation around Leo's tendency to date women under the age of 25, as well as some great memes and even birthday cakes. At the end of the day, Victoria is still 23 years younger than Leo. Quote, it's possible he's now dating someone outside of his usual age range to help dispel some of the gossip rumors that have followed him around the past few years. But it's also important to remember that she still does fit his typical type. It would be easy to say, she says, based on the track record, that they're unlikely to last forever. Quote, we don't know the ins and outs of the relationship, and who's to say this won't be different? High-profile men have always been dating younger women for decades. Quote, look back at any decade of the past, and you'll be able to think of a couple of big age gaps, whether it's Catherine Zeta-Jones and Michael Douglas, which Catherine Zeta-Jones was like 29, and I think Michael Douglas was 66 when they got married, or something like that. It was in his 60s, I believe it was, or 50s. Frank Sinatra with Mia Farrow. That's quite a bit of an age difference. The prevalence of these relationships in Hollywood may be down to the rules feeling slightly different there. It could be societal pressures that may influence some men's preference toward younger women, especially in Hollywood. It could be easier not to feel as constrained by societal norms as the average person does. So the hyper attention is being created for this. Knight says that there's several reasons why a man who is 50 or 49, as Leo is right now, about to turn 50, coming up in November, because around he's almost same sign as me, but he's not Sagittarius. I forget if he's what's the one before that? Early November. I don't know what it is. There's a common held idea of the appeal of younger women having more energy in the bedroom, as younger women could be seen as wilder and more promiscuous, even stereotypically more flexible. But she says that's not the case. Quote, women don't lose their desire for intimacy as they get older, and getting down under the covers really has no age limit. Our own research has found that 66% of women over 65 have used or would like to try a sex toy with a partner, or being adventurous in the bedroom isn't something that's reserved for women in their 20s. In terms of the woman's interest in the relationship, it's often appealing for younger women to date more mature men. Knight says, women may feel that older guys offer something that they're not finding within men of their own age. And she explains in our society, older men are considered to be more mature and serious than their younger counterparts. So I also wanted to give from the other side of Vogue, where they have in their culture column, they actually had a story about what's an acceptable age gap in relationships. So I take the story and they talk about the fact that they look at some of these stories about some of the women that are with younger co-stars. In some cases, there's the part where Anne Hathaway was with a younger co-star in a recent feature. Natalie Portman and Paul Mescal, right? Nicole Kidman and her younger co-partner. I forget what movie it was or what he's in. But as a general rule, they say that the age gap equation, of course, is half your age, then add 7 to work out as someone is too young for you to date. Take 7 off your age, then double it to work out if it's someone too old for you to date. Where love, sex, romance, and in the best of times care are concerned, numbers can't always provide the answer. Desire, attraction, and nourishment are not as same as basic math, they say here. And many women would argue for the legal line that if all parties are consenting age and can fully and actively consent, there's no problem. But much like the equation, this line of thinking doesn't consider the difference in power, the actual ability to consent fully between an 18-year-old and a 68-year-old. Legally, an age of consent is a great thing, but emotionally, how can we consent is in some ways contextual as well as ever-changing. So the older person, they say, has all the power. The younger person is exploited or at best seeking proximity to that power. And the older person, and some experience to this writer, says that the older person would have the power of experience, sure. In our case, he had much more money. But there's the assurance of care of an older person offers you a lift that when you don't have a license. For many people, this is attractive and starting dynamic for many relationships where there isn't an age gap, which is where sugar dating comes from. The same idea. We always know that sugar daddies are always significantly older of age and the woman much younger. Power dynamics form for countless reasons: economics, gender, sexual experience. How were you parented? An understanding of domestic and thought labor. To assume all age gap relationships are always based on a kind of a top-down exploitation removes agency. Often the societal discourse assumes that younger women engaged in these relationships are in danger. They aren't knowingly exploiting the age gap dynamic too. Culture, we think romance should be fair, just and morally pure, but this isn't what happens in reality. Many years of blissful marriage aren't rendered meaningless by complicated beginnings. Look, you can go and go along with all you want. We're getting back to the fact of, if Leo DiCaprio, by this point, be active in relationships, 30 years, by the way, let's make that point, and active in terms of being a celebrity, then becoming an A-list celebrity, and having the choice of plenty of women he could be with, because for many of those years he was, still very much attractive, and he's held himself up to the most part. But he has this thing in what he wants to do, and who's to say that this young lady right now, at 26 years old, could be the one that's finally the keystone? She's finally the one that will reach his heart, and he sees a life with her. It's notable to say this: of all the women he's been with, I'm trying to just think of the part where she is from Italy, and that's all there is to it, right? She's not been, I don't know if she has completely been Americanized. That's the other part I got to think about as well. I mean, it's not like, Leo DiCaprio's a passport, bro. I don't think that. But when I think about Vittoria, she was born in Brescia, Italy, right? And then we have to ask ourselves, obviously she stayed in Italy for the most part and then traveled from Italy for the most part, what she did for her modeling work. And she stuck with modeling. And something tells me that there's something about her. She's not caught up in the celebrity. She's very much successful herself. Let's make that point clear. In a completely different area, because modeling is she's not into acting. She's not put herself into anything else. She is just a beautiful woman that's been documented and photographed since she was 14. So for the last 12 years, she's been gracing magazines and, runways and shit forever. And that's what she does. But she's also the point where, it's nothing about her career changing so much. It's just that, in her modeling career, she's still going to be prominent, but it's going to change for her. After 25 years old, going into closer to her 30s, what she might be modeling for and who her target audience might become will change. Nothing about her, and who knows what she might do for herself. But something tells me there's much more behind the beauty with her. Beyond the beauty, a character, just an attitude, a personality that goes beyond the beauty. And it's, what's beautiful in her heart, what's beautiful in who she is as a person. Because he spent a lot of time with her. I mean, I don't know how much he's been working on other projects, but he obviously has enjoyed time with her. And she also only split and divorced from the DJ, this Ibiza Italian DJ, Matteo Miletti, in June of last year. And then shortly after, met Leo at Cannes, and off and going. So she was already ready to move on, and here you go. Maybe both of these folks are just ready not to go and play around anymore. They're done with that. They've had their fun, They've done what they wanted to do and live their lives the way they wanted to go and live them, right? So remember there's just something he said about like that, maybe they've gone and passed their own time of frolicking, having fun, and living the life and going wherever they wanted, jet set and whatever. Maybe they're just gonna let us set things down. Maybe Leo is ready not to go ahead and be around that anymore. It's something that touched different to him, and maybe he just doesn't need to be depraved and debaucherous. But for the rest of us, we can remain depraved and debaucherous.